Welcome to another episode of Level Up Stronger. I'm your host, Tiffany Letterly, and today we're diving into the topic that's become increasingly relevant in our interconnected world: social isolation in the virtual realm.
And this is Ken Lyon, your co-host. Our mission is to help you overcome challenges and emerge stronger than ever. So let's explore the impact of virtual social isolation and discover ways to navigate through it. Social isolation in the context of the virtual realm refers to the condition where individuals experience a lack of meaningful connections and interactions in the online space, leading to feelings of loneliness, detachment, and a sense of being socially disconnected. While the digital age has provided us with a variety of tools, various communications, such as social media, messaging apps, and virtual communities, it doesn't always guarantee the authentic social engagement. So social isolation in the virtual realm can occur when these digital interactions lack depth, when they fail to fulfill emotional needs, or result in an overwhelming sense of disconnection.
Social isolation here isn't just a lack of physical proximity, it's the stark contrast between the promise of connectivity and the reality of disconnection. Recent studies show that despite the proliferation of digital communication tools, over 20% of the adults in the US report feeling socially isolated.
And that really is like a paradox, right, Tiffany?
Yeah.
Because, we become more interconnected through technology, and yet there's this sense of lack of connection and that the digital relationships lack that depth and authenticity that I think we always crave. So I know that one of the things I was reading is that there was a survey conducted by the Pew Research Center finding that 69% of the adults in the US use social media. 64% believe fake news has caused a great deal or a fair amount of confusion about what basic facts and current events are. I mean, I know that it makes it hard when we're not sure what the source is and what you're listening to, and if it's factual or if it's something being made up.
Well, and I think this is also going to become a more widely difficult issue to navigate going forward because now we have artificial intelligence and you have
Yes.
the deep fakes.
Yes.
So I know they're trying to put some legislation in place to assist with some of that. And I hope they do because the deep fakes are the part that scares me probably the most.
Yeah, me
But,
too.
if you really look at social isolation and the virtual world that we live in, and you zoom in on the psychological and emotional impact of everything, the more time that we spend in the virtual world, the more social isolation has been linked to heightened stress, anxiety, and feelings of loneliness. So, according
Right.
to studies by the Journal of Social and Clinical Psychology, they really suggest that we limit our use of media to 30 minutes, which I laugh at because I
That's never gonna
spend way
happen.
more than 30 minutes just watching TikTok videos every
That's like a
day.
minimum.
I know. But and I think we've all felt it as you spend more time consuming social content. It does have an impact on like what your thought processes are versus like when
Yeah.
you disassociate from all of that technology and information. I think we become overloaded with the information that's coming at us
Yeah,
when
we
you're
do.
spending all that time just consuming content. You
Yeah.
can't help but feel or allow yourself to feel the emotions that are being reciprocated online, right? Or in the
Yeah.
videos that you're watching.
Yeah. And I think that sometimes that triggers a feeling of loneliness, right? Because you're like,
Correct.
oh, well, I'm not doing all these cool things that these people in the videos are doing. And so then I'm just kind of sitting here in my house consuming all this content. And I can totally see that. And also there have been studies about that from the National Institute of Mental Health, has been talked about how prolonged states of loneliness like that can contribute to a variety of different mental health issues, which include depression and anxiety, because you're starting to compare yourself to other people and not realizing the value of your own life and what you're doing and how much you can contribute in your own way. It doesn't have to be through the social media or the current TikTok trend or the current, whatever is going on. So I think that's an important distinction there as far as helping with social isolation.
Well, and I know last week we talked about like the toxic narrative that we often talk about in our head.
Yeah.
If you don't have good control over the narrative that you're thinking,
Yeah.
social media will definitely play into that. And that's, I think, where we start then comparing our lives to other people's lives. I think it's really important for us to remember that the stuff that we're seeing in social media is the highlight reel of somebody's life. It is
Right.
the curated content, the manipulated, cut and paste of what goes on. And
Right.
it is not, in fact, reality, or it is a
That's
manipulated version of reality.
Yeah, skewed for likes and hits and clicks,
Correct. Correct. And
Yeah,
you're being
exactly right.
marketed to, right?
Yeah,
That all of what's on social media, they are
yeah,
marketing to you in some way, shape, or form. And so that can also, I guess, create those barriers that we slip into from an isolation standpoint, because then you go back to the reality of your own life and you see the difference, right? And so that
yeah.
further pushes you to what you feel like is the edges or the fringes of society because your life doesn't match what you're seeing online.
Right. It's kind of like when people go into the movies and they think, oh, well, my life should be like these, the characters in the movie. It's like, but that's the whole point. These are characters in a movie. It's not real life. And even real life shows, what do they call it? Reality TV shows, they're scripted too. That's not real life. That's not
Yeah.
actually really happening. They're putting real people in these circumstances, but it's still scripted. I mean, I was an actor for many years, and that is not spontaneously happening that way when you see that on TV. And
Not
then
at
it's
all.
edited and made to heighten different dramatic tension that happens and all that stuff. And that's not normal everyday life for people. So
No,
I think that's a really important distinction you just made right there about, you have to make sure and realize that this is a form of entertainment. It's a form of marketing.
absolutely.
And it's not just people's everyday lives. People don't live like that all the time. They're
No.
showing you this little slice that gets that extra heightened oomph going on with it.
And I think the more you consume specific types of content, and if the content as a whole skews negative or positive, that also has a huge impact on your mental state, right? And so that's where
Absolutely.
they're really warning people that, spending this much time alone in a socially isolated scenario where you're online, you are in fact interacting with no one in
No one.
reality, right? And
Yeah.
so, but you're just consuming content. It can be damaging to your ability to your relationships. It can be damaging
Agree.
to, your real life expectations.
I agree.
I think in general, if you don't have a good self-worth, self-esteem, and a good grasp on like who you are as a person, that all the things that you're seeing online can have a huge toll on your mental well-being. And I think we're seeing that more and more with young
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, I think so too.
You and I, when we were little, didn't have computers, right? I
No,
mean,
no
I'm
internet.
solidly in the I'm kind of that cusp between Gen X and millennials,
Uh-huh.
um, and kind of sit right there on the edge of that. And it definitely is something where like we didn't have really social media didn't exist until I was almost out of high school. Like it was, it was really just starting. But
Yeah.
when I was in high school, social media was. And so I can't imagine being a kid today and just being bombarded with all of
Right.
this social media when you don't know who you are as a person yet,
You're still developing, you're
right?
still discovering yourself. That's the whole process. Even through your 20s, that's that part of
Yeah.
that process of exploration and trying on different things and seeing what fits for you and what doesn't. I think that brings up, to a point about one of the ways to deal with social isolationism is to find that balance between online and offline interactions. And I think
Yeah.
that's really crucial, right? That you need to have that balance between those two for a better state of mental well-being.
Absolutely.
Because you still live in a physical world with a physical body. You still have to go out and do stuff in the real world and
Yeah.
eat and sleep and do other things. I think that's a really important thing to take that time to purposely create that time you get together with your friends. Even if you're talking about the latest TikTok video,
Yeah.
but go meet him at the coffee shop, go meet him at the park, go
Yeah.
meet him at the
For sure.
mall, wherever it is, and go meet physically and interact with each other in a physical dimension. I think that really makes a huge difference.
For sure. And I think, looking at like real life experiences and looking at these percentages and things like that, and really looking at my own life. So during the pandemic, we moved to work from home. And while I really enjoy work from home, I realized very quickly that a lot of my social engagement was with people I worked with,
Right.
going to work every day, going out to lunch with coworkers, coworkers
So
with
true.
friends, and things like that. And as adults, like if you don't have a really good friend group that you hang out with on a regular basis, or if you are, your family or is small, or you live by yourself or whatever, it can definitely like you have to work harder to not feel socially isolated. I know for me, because we work from home, a lot of us work from home, and really both even beyond working from home, my entire team is spread all across the country, right? And so
Right.
we've always kind of existed for the last 10, 15 years, even long before the pandemic started, we really were working in a virtual process. And what I've noticed now that I don't, because during the pandemic, I got rid of my office because everybody wanted to work from home. And I was like, well, I
Right.
spend the money on a brick and mortar office here
Right.
in my region. If everybody can work from home, and I trust my
Yeah.
team, they're fine. We
Yeah.
would meet up occasionally for a variety of different things. But the longer that goes on, the less likely it becomes that we move back into a brick and mortar space. And I know right now, at least for the last 4 years, a lot of people have been living this virtual existence and work,
Yeah.
and now this push for return to office and things like that. I mean, I can't imagine having to go back or being forced to go back to that because we've been isolated for so long from each other that now, like, we're going to have to work to rebuild the comfort level with the
Yeah.
social interaction that we've been lacking. So it's like we
Yeah.
created this vacuum that now we have to figure out a way to fill. And it gives you a sense of trepidation to some extent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it does. And I noticed for myself, I was for many years I was did modeling and acting, and I was going to the gym every day, and that was part of my socialization was
Yeah.
the guys I would see at the gym. So you saw the same people there over and
Yeah.
over, and you did that over a period of months and years, and you develop social circles, and you get ended up going out and doing activities together, or going on hikes or bike rides or whatever that kind of thing, and that shifted, especially during the pandemic, and then like I said, it's been because the whole world's kind of moving more and more toward the virtual realm now. I think that genuine interaction is really key. One of the things that I think one of the solutions that can help with this also is live interactions with people, as opposed to just
Yeah.
watching
Yeah.
things that have already been taped and just consuming the content, but
True.
actually having, like lives that you interact back and forth in
Yeah,
real time,
for sure.
because that helps to mimic that kind of in-person socialization aspect that can be really significantly positively impact your mental health, and prevent mental health issues from forming when you have physical activities as well as face-to-face interactions.
And I struggled a little bit with this topic because while I feel like if you look at my life on paper, you would think I am socially isolated because I, again, work from home. There's
Right.
nobody here. And frankly, by the end of the day, I don't want to talk to anybody anymore because I've had it. But it's because like I am doing those, like, while the interactions are largely virtual, they are, interactive interactions, right? And so it's the FaceTime phone calls and the sitting in meetings and Zoom and all of those things. Like it's also mentally um because you have that interaction, you do still do the mental gymnastics, although it isn't face to face with someone. I still feel like you are getting it's a little bit better than being completely isolated where you have no feedback. It's the
I
feedback
agree.
loop that I think is missing when you are not, when you're only consuming content and you're not actually participating in it.
Yeah, and I think that to your point also I think it's for me that's it's real-time interaction as well because obviously you can comment on people's videos and stuff
Yeah.
and they can comment back to you, but that's all delayed, that's not
Yeah.
happening in real time. So there's always that buffer and there's still that can be that sense of isolation. Oh, they didn't respond to my comment or they
Yeah.
didn't, get back to me kind of thing. Whereas when you're in a live situation and or live even over a Zoom call like we're doing,
Yep.
that you're interacting with each other. You actually
Mhm.
have a social connection with each other that it develops community over a period of time as well. So I,
Yeah.
I think that's part of that, like as far as, like getting with other groups who had to share the same personal interests that you do, like joining a club of some kind, like a hiking club, if you like, or bike riding or swimming or whatever it might be. And if it's not that, even a social thing like book reading or that kind of thing where you get together once a month and you share the experience of what the book that you just read and how that impacted you. And but again, in real time, I think the real time is a key element here in helping to deal with the social isolation aspect of our society right now.
When I feel like I'm very introverted as a person. I mean, I spend the vast majority of my day in a very extroverted position where I am the, chief operations officer of a large company. I have to lead all of the meetings and, be
Right.
on all day long. And so by the end of the day, like I am mentally, like I need the break, I need the separation. And so sometimes that's like I need the quiet time to recharge. And so I'm not feeling the isolation as much as I think maybe somebody who craves the one-on-one attention and the physicality of like having somebody like with them at all times. Because there's some people who they just cannot sit in a room by themselves.
There
Like
are.
they're just
They're just
not
very
capable of
uncomfortable with
doing
it.
it. They don't feel comfortable with their own thoughts, right?
Right.
And so like I completely get that, and I understand like where that's coming from. I personally need I need the recharge time after being on all day long. So like coming home and, having then somebody who also then would need attention, or you have like it would mentally wear me out. It did for a long time mentally wear me out to have to be both the leader of everything and then also come home to the chaos of having all of that. So like
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not feeling it as much like the social isolation as much as like on paper should tell me that I should. But
Right.
everybody needs the one-on-one time with each other. You need a hug every once in a while, right? Like
Absolutely, you do. Like you need,
we're humans.
we're
We need a
humans.
cuddle.
We need, and there has been a lot of psychological studies that show and physiological that
Yeah.
human touch is very healing. It's
Oh
really
yeah.
important to have that physical interaction with each other. Like I said, the touch, just giving that somebody a hug, it's a beautiful thing.
Mhm.
I'm a big hugger. I've always have been. So I've always found those it's just such an amazing thing to be able to connect with somebody that way. And also, I do a lot of I do life coaching and so the spiritual counseling work. And so I've been doing that for many years. So I'm also in the position where I'm on when I'm doing
Yep.
those things. And at the same time, for me, I find that balance by going into my inner world every day and meditating every day and taking
Sure.
time out to focus on mindfulness practices and creating that balance back and forth. Because I'm a very outgoing person and I've always been very extroverted. And that's kind of a natural way I'm wired. So that's very comfortable and easy for me. But even with that said, I still need my alone time. I need the
Yeah.
time to just unplug from everything and go within and work with my own inner world that's not having to do with anybody else or anything else
Mhm.
so I can create that balance in my own life that way. So like socializing with myself,
Yeah. For
and
sure.
my spiritual realm, my guides and my connection to source. I
Yeah.
would say to me, that's one of the key, a game changer, in my opinion, is to continue to move forward with that inner world exploration.
Well, I think because I am very introverted, like in a large like group setting, I feel very overwhelmed. And it's almost physically overwhelming. Like I can feel my
Yeah,
like nerves on end when there's too many
yeah,
people. So like
yeah,
gravitating towards social isolation if you're an introverted person who is easily overwhelmed by an external environment that's chaotic, it's very easy to slip into that kind of routine where you are consuming too much content and not living a life.
yeah,
I will get
yeah,
mad at myself
yeah.
if I look down and I see that I've been scrolling through social media for like an hour. I get mad at myself because I'm like,
Right,
Jesus Christ, like you're not living your life while you're like you're scrolling,
right.
doom scrolling. You know what I mean?
It's so true.
So yeah, I'm like, God
Right.
damn it, go do something. Get
Like,
a,
go do something. Get up and walk around the house, even,
something.
or whatever. It's
Yeah,
something.
go call somebody or talk to
Yeah.
a real live person. Not that the people on the other end of the videos aren't real life people, but they're not here,
Right.
right?
Again, it's not real time. They
Correct.
taped it and posted it. They're off doing something else by the time you're looking at their video.
Well, that's
So
what kind of scares me with artificial intelligence because now we're going to create a world that maybe meets our needs, but is still missing the human element and dynamic
yeah,
that I think is cannot actually be replicated by machines.
I would agree. I think there's going to be a different kind of way to interact, as it becomes more sophisticated. But again, it's not a replacement. It's an addition, right? It's another a way of interacting with someone else or something else, as it were. I was thinking about how the most recent actors strike was SAG as well as the writers strike. Part of that was about protecting the actor's image so that
Yeah,
people couldn't use deep fakes to fake their image to get hits and likes and sell crap, pretending that they're some star and by using AI.
yeah,
And that was one of their main concerns, which is
yeah.
completely valid,
Well,
100%.
and to take somebody's image and then, AI uses it and then they don't have to pay the person
Correct.
anymore, right? So now
Royalties. Right.
you have the
Yeah.
ability to take somebody's image and manipulate.
And then
and not only
have
that,
them doing things like, with their like there's like they just said there was an AI thing with Taylor Swift on the news just
yes,
recently
yep,
about her nude pictures of Taylor Swift generated from an AI image, right? That kind of thing, and that definitely is very detrimental, in my opinion, to social support systems, right? And creating
correct,
community with each other because it's not, it's fake, it's not
yeah,
real, obviously.
yeah.
And it creates that sense of disconnect as well.
Well, and I think also like students navigating virtual learning and, kids today are facing some very unique challenges because they're now growing up in
I
a
agree.
realm where AI becomes like a key component. So like we haven't even really fully seen like
No,
what the impact is going to be to
no.
society. And I think the next probably 10 years as little kids start to grow up utilizing artificial intelligence, we'll start to see some of the ramifications of the technological age
Yes.
that we're living in. And, unfortunately, the Journal of Medical Internet Research already is finding that 71% of students are experiencing increased stress due to virtual learning and having to do things in a digital way. The
Yes,
further impact is then
exactly.
kids are so virtually adept, but they lack interactive social skills.
Yes.
And I know I just had this conversation today with my regional manager because one of the things that we're facing, so like vast majority of what we do is construction, facilities management, and things like that. And we're starting to see as baby boomers are retiring, you have less and less people with a mechanical aptitude who are physically able to do the work. And we've
Right.
hired some younger people to try to get an idea of what things that we're going to be facing long term with their skills, capabilities, social ability to do socially interact from a customer service standpoint and things like that. And I can tell you there are some significant things that no one has really thought about and how it's going to impact a lot of industries over time because the kids are not
Yeah,
learning good social skills.
they aren't.
I literally in the last 2 weeks have had to sit with a group of grown ass men and have a conversation about like how to communicate and interact with each other and just be honest,
Still,
open, and just be able to communicate, right? And these
yeah,
were guys that were in every like age bracket, right?
right.
And era. And then we have this conversation about some of the with my regional manager today about some of the younger people that we've hired recently for start positions and just their complete inability to assimilate zero soft skills, which soft skills are really hard skills, right? But they have the social interaction is missing. They don't know how to communicate effectively face to face with clients in a real life like scenario, right?
Right, right.
And they just come with a level of interactive baggage that is really difficult, I think is going to be really difficult for us to overcome because we are very hands-on and technical still in a lot of industries that we work on
Yeah,
and they haven't been taught technical skills. They live
right,
in this virtual world
right.
where everybody wants to be a TikTok star and they lack the knowledge base that's needed. They're maybe book smart,
Yeah,
but common sense is missing, communication, interaction is missing. And then also, we're also missing just in general the technical skills to be able to figure out a solution to
yeah.
something because Google's not giving it to them.
I hadn't thought about, that's a really great point, Tiffany. I hadn't thought about how it's impacting the physical skills in the real world, like to be able to go fix this computer's hardware, whatever, or this building structural
Yep.
thing, whatever, I hadn't realized that's a great point that's going to be impacted. Something that really struck me as we were talking is about, I think one of the things that's been detrimental with social isolation and why there's lack of social skills is because there's a lack of taking responsibility for one's impact.
Oh, yeah,
When you,
for
when you
sure.
hide behind the screen, when you can do something on a tweet or or whatever it's called now, and or do a TikTok or an Instagram or whatever, and there you don't have to take any responsibility for how that lands or how that interacts. And
Sure.
if you offend somebody, then you can just ignore their responses back to you. So there's no taking responsibility for the impact. And to me, that's one of the key ways that we grow as human beings
Yep.
is that you recognize that we all have impact on each other
Yep.
and that you have to take responsibility for that impact and how that lands with the other person. Like
Yep.
one of the key things that I work with a lot of my clients is that the meaning of your communication is the response that you get. So it's not necessarily that you're saying the wrong thing or whatever, but if you're coming from a genuine place of trying to communicate something to someone and they completely don't get that and respond negatively or like get really offended, then your meaning didn't get through, right? The
Right.
meaning of your communication is the response that you get. So if the response comes back opposite of what you were intending to do, then you need to change your communication. You need to change it up because they did not get it. You're not on the same page. They did not understand what you were talking about.
Well, and a lot of times in direct interaction with someone, you have to instantaneously adjust your reaction. Whereas
Correct.
when we're living in a virtual digital world, you have time
You
because you
do.
can pause
You
or you
do.
can not respond right away. And so that's, I think, where maybe we're not teaching people because you're living in a digital world, right? Where
Right.
you're consuming content, but you are able to craft a response, or maybe somebody ignores you, or you have time to really think about what you're going to say in response to something, or there's one-sided interaction, right? Whereas when you put someone into a physical job or a physical relationship, there's not that buffer. And
Right.
you like, I think that's leading to a lot of, like you said, like communication challenges and the inability for people to really understand how to read the physical social cues,
Yes.
right? Because
And I,
we're not learning that in a
yeah, and it creates
virtual.
a lack of empathy, I think, for
Yeah,
the other person that you're talking with.
empathy is missing.
Putting
Yep,
yourself in their shoes, right? What it's like
yep.
to be on the receiving end of all this communications information or lack thereof, right? So I
For
think
sure.
that's a really key element. I've been talking with some of my friends who have kids and asking about how they're dealing with this. And one of the things that they do is they limit the amount of screen time that their
Mhm.
kids can be online doing interacting with stuff.
Yep,
And they're saying like 3 hours or so is about the max they usually let them stay doing stuff.
for
And then
sure.
they make them go out and like they'll schedule play dates with their neighbors or their
Yeah.
friends, or they'll go have dinner together with another family, or they'll go out to a restaurant and they have to put their phones away while they're out at the restaurant, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So they have to physically interact in real time in social circumstances to start reinstilling those social skills that have a lot of deteriorated in a lot of ways.
Yeah, nothing is more frustrating than sitting down in a restaurant with people and everybody's on their phone.
Right?
And I'm like,
And a
what?
lot of
Like,
times
you
they're
guys
texting
took
to each
took the
other at the
yeah.
table.
I was like, you took the time to drive across town, probably had to make a reservation, and then you're gonna sit face to face and not even talk to each other. What the fuck is wrong with you
I
people?
know. It's like,
Put your
hello,
phone away.
put
Anyway,
your
but
phone
yeah,
away.
when it comes to the little kids, though, I have observed it. Like when my nieces and nephews are with me, I let them play with their tablets, but I noticed that the longer they are on their tablets, the worse their behavior becomes.
Ah,
And
yeah,
so there's something there with that, like the constant screen time and the absorption of all of that, like in your face, like technology coming at you, that
yeah,
or
yeah.
the meltdowns become more frequent and all of that kind of stuff. And I know I've had this, like, I'm a huge, like, because again, a proponent for technology where all
Yes,
of my nieces or nephews are, because I know that that's the world they're going to live in.
it
So
is.
I'm the person
Absolutely.
who buys them robots and I'm the person who
Right,
like makes sure that they all have a tablet. When they're here, it's, I've bought them the VR goggles and things like that.
right.
At the same time, like I actually had this conversation, I think the other day with my brother in regards to like, are we also making sure that we're teaching them social skills?
Yeah,
And so he's very cognizant of the fact that he's, got those tween kids he's got
yep.
some high schoolers and he's got the tweens, and he's noticing the awkwardness, which I think tween kids, boys are awkward in
That's
talking to girls
natural
anyway. That's
anyway.
natural, but
Yeah,
it's almost worse. And so he makes a point to like ensure that they have some sort of interaction with people outside of the family group and have to interact in some way, shape, or form so that know how to talk to a girl without being a weirdo and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So,
or a boy.
yeah, or little boys. But I mean, same way with girls. I mean, yeah,
It's true.
kids are
But no,
awkward.
my friends have been doing the same thing. They're making sure that they are taking time to get their kids to interact, and especially
Mhm.
like again, teenagers, that they are having to physically interact with people in a social circumstance that's not virtual,
Yeah,
purposely.
Yeah.
like go to the amusement park, right? Or go do whatever or something, go to a game or whatever it might be.
Yep.
Something where they're actually engaged in the physical realm, without your social media buffer, right?
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
think that's a really, again, a key because those are learned skills, right? If you
Mhm.
don't practice them, you don't learn them. I think that's one of the keys as far as dealing with that social isolation is to, make a point of getting involved with other groups or people that are doing things that you are that you enjoy, and then moving forward, as far as participating in that in some capacity. I think that's why like going to concerts or going to sporting events or going to a show or a theater or whatever, or going to a movie with somebody. Even you're not talking during the movie, but you talk before and after, and maybe go out afterwards. That kind of thing. Those kind of things I think are really, really important to take that time to create that level of building community with each other in a real world
It's
time
important.
frame.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. And then I think also beyond community and communication, online forums also can be a place where you can find community. And I don't
true.
want to discount like
Sure.
how cool it is that the technology has brought us a wider view of the world. Something can be said to the geographic isolation that we had pre social media, whereas now like there's a wider collective sharing of ideas, and maybe I'm hoping that that leads to a broadening of our viewpoint and how
Yeah.
we like what we think about people who are other than what we are. You know what I
I
mean?
think,
I feel like
yeah,
when growing up in a non-social realm, like you were very isolated in your interactions with
yeah,
just the people within your core, like 6
true,
degrees of separation, right? And so
true. Yeah,
your group think becomes who you hang out with.
it's true.
And so I feel like I was probably because of the largely white, largely Christian Midwest, the mentality of that early year upbringing made me a lot less accepting of people with a wide variety of ideas. And
Hmm.
I think over time, I know for sure, like I've definitely broadened my viewpoint, my empathy and understanding of other people through the use of technology and our ability to socially interact with people who are different than me.
Yeah, I can relate to that in a number of ways. I grew up in a very, very small town in
Yeah.
Colorado, and it was very, very isolated that way. About 3,000 people, and we had three stoplights. I mean,
Yeah.
like really small town.
That's small. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was when I left and went to college and started, getting my higher education, and I started getting exposed to different people's thoughts
Hmm.
and the ways that they live their lives and the people from different countries who I'd never even been exposed to before. That was huge as far as personal growth for me to start recognizing, oh wow, there is a big difference in the way people live. And that doesn't mean there's better than or less than me, but it's different. And it really broadened my awareness and consciousness about the world and how people live, and there's so many different ways to interpret and be in the world, and how you engage with each other and what you do, your belief systems, all those things. It was really quite amazing, and it was really powerful. And I think you can do that, like I said, in a virtual realm as well. I wanted to address that point you talked about with geographic isolation from the
Yeah.
from the prior to the digital realm and the virtual world. Because I know for myself, my practice, when I started learning how to do working in the virtual realm, which for me is fairly new. It's only been a little over a year and a half or something like that right now. But I find it's amazing now that when I can do sessions with clients over WhatsApp or Zoom or
Yeah.
FaceTime.
Yeah.
I've been working with people in the Bahamas, in Tennessee, in Florida, in New York, in
Hmm.
Colorado, in Southern Cali, and I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I couldn't have done that
Yeah.
before, because now they don't physically have to come to me in order to me to work and help them. And I think that level of accessibility is really quite elegant and really beautiful. So it's definitely, and it is real time, but it's done in a virtual realm. So it's not all negative. It's just that it's just different. And it
Yeah.
definitely that greater accessibility, I think, is a really powerful positive plus as far
Well,
as the virtual realm goes.
yeah, and it's allowed us to find communities that we can align our personal interests with.
Yeah.
Creates kind of a niche for authentic connections with people who maybe
Yes.
have like-minded ideals and or,
Yes.
something that you're interested in.
Yes.
The Journal of Community Psychology emphasizes that there's an importance of shared interests and fostering the sense of community. And we can do that, I think, on a much grander scale by utilizing online means, right?
Yes, absolutely. I 100% agree. And also I think it's important, to just to recognize sometimes the virtual burnout that can happen as well. I know that there was the Journal of Occupational Health Psychology had
Yeah,
said that you set healthy boundaries and incorporate mindfulness practices on a daily basis, that contributes to maintaining a healthy digital lifestyle as well. I mean,
absolutely.
it's a great way to kind of take care of yourself and also still stay interactive with people in the virtual realm, but not get to the other extreme where you're just like burned out because you're constantly like consuming content like we talked about before.
Yeah, I think there's probably a healthy balance here between
Yes.
consuming content, but also like if you're going to spend a large amount of time in a virtual essence, then there probably needs to be a healthy amount of ability to actually interact in a way that is more than just typing or consuming. Like you
Right.
need that, the ability to share ideas and things like that. And so I think that's where the isolation, right, comes from. Like if all you're doing is consuming content and you are hiding behind the content and there
Right.
is no interaction, no ability to share ideas, no ability to actually communicate and or in a way that makes you have to think beyond just consumption, then I think that's where the isolation becomes potentially dangerous or mentally taxing for people. And so,
Yeah, yeah. I think that kind of ties into also the fact that I think people need to recognize that, you have to be in charge of your own digital well-being as well.
correct.
And to create a harmonious balance within your own life. Part of that is that level of awareness about what you're doing and how much you're doing of something. There's nothing wrong with consuming content, but when you're doing that 6, 7, 8 hours a day, you're not living your
Yeah.
life, then there's an issue. Then it's impacting the quality of your life and how you can move forward and manifesting your dreams.
Yeah,
So
nothing makes me feel worse than that screen time notice that pops up on your iPhone that says
yes,
how many
yes,
hours a day you're consuming content.
yes.
I'm like, shit.
Well, I think one of the key takeaways today also is to recognize that you have the power to transform your own digital experience
Yeah,
and, level up stronger into your own life. Use it as a tool to promote your personal growth and your emotional, physical, and spiritual growth, rather than letting it be something that detracts from that. And
yeah.
that's totally within your power. However you choose to use that tool is up to you.
As we wrap up this very enriching episode and remember that our aim is to provide a comprehensive understanding of social isolation in the virtual realm.
Yeah, and we can't be completely comprehensive in this very complex topic here. We
Absolutely.
have shared some relatable experiences and offered some practical strategies for overcoming some of these challenges.
Remember that you have the power to transform your digital interactions and emerge stronger.
So, thank you for joining us once again on this episode of Level Up Stronger. And if you found value in today's discussion, subscribe to us or share it with your community and let us know your thoughts. Give us some feedback so we know what you think about our episodes and what we're doing here.
Stay tuned for upcoming episodes where we continue to explore avenues for personal growth and empowerment. Until next time, this is Tiffany Letterly.
And this is Ken Lyon signing off for Level Up Stronger.